Coach, thanks so much for giving us a few minutes of your time here. This is obviously a big couple of days for you guys. Figuring out the long-term deal to keep Tua here, and I know you guys are super excited about that. And Tua was talking about the work that you did on his behalf, with ownership, and kind of going to bat for him. Can you shed some light on what that process was like for you guys?
I think I really appreciate classic Tua, which is humility and very extreme gratitude.
Yeah.
I think. From an organizational standpoint, we were all on the same page the entire process, and I'm pretty confident that Chris Greer, Steve Ross, everybody knew exactly where I stood with Tua, and so we just worked collectively together. I think it was a good exercise. Really pumped about getting it done. But at the same time, that feels like 12 months ago. There was a level of expectation, or just faith and expectation between all the parties involved. And so since whatever that was, 12 months ago, we've been exclusively worried about team football and what we're doing today, which is a practice with pads on shoulders.
Let's
go.
Yeah. First pad day. I love it.
That's right.
I love it.
Yeah. I almost came to this in pads.
Really?
Now that would have been a story, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Single bar face mask and everything.
No face mask.
Let's go old school.
I guess one more on Tua, because I think his journey is incredible. From where he was in college to where he was with the previous regime, and to now seeing his confidence, seeing how he's elevated his aura, his game. You have called him the perfect quarterback for your system. For people at home, what does Tua do that you see that makes him so great for this team, this organization, for you?
Well, first of all, I think, and I do appreciate, all the praise that, but I think the whole organization and the team deserve as much, if not more, credit for, you foster an environment that you hope players can develop in. And, our jobs are develop players. We take that very, very serious. I think he's an example, and there's other examples on this team where guys find ways through coaching and through sacrifice to get better. Now, when you're talking specifically about what Tua does in his game, he has an incredible ability to see defenders while playing the position of quarterback. It's not the easiest thing to see defenders and then throw to eligibles. A lot of people just think in the backyard, is it easy to not look at the slant that's being run from your nephew and just throw it, so that's a difficult thing, as well as just he has a rhythm to his game, and the anticipatory part I think is that and accuracy are two of the most important components of quarterback play. So I think Tua is a really good quarterback in offense. And so I think he makes us better, and then the guys that play with him, I think they have building rapport that we hope to continue to build on while we sweat out here today.
That's it. And you mentioned the pads. So on that first day where you got a little bit of contact, right, and you start to hear a little bit of those noises we love about football, what do you look for as a head coach on that first day of pads?
Well, there's a lot of things. There's you want to see consistencies or inconsistencies with people's play, because that tells you something. There's a lot of times you'll see guys play a hair faster in and around contact. That's important for performing on game day. And then, I think where you're at as a team, or for me personally, I'm very proactive with the team about, the the first day of pads, there's always some scores to settle that have been
Kendall
built
Lamb
up,
might have mentioned
right?
that yesterday.
And and I said it in the team meeting today. I won't be surprised if they do a fairly good job, but not a perfect job at between the whistle fighting.
Yeah.
Because for me personally, I have no patience while everyone's slap fighting on face masks.
Right.
The rest of the team is just standing in the heat watching them, wrestle. So,
Yeah.
but you try to keep that stuff in between the whistles, because that you're replicating game-like situations, and we're not trying to get thrown out of games. They're precious enough as it is. So
Clean pops.
That's it.
Clean.
That's it. No doubt.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, thank you so much for spending some time here with us today.
Absolutely.
And look forward to watching you guys out there on the
all
field.
right. Make sure you guys hydrate.
Always.
We will.
I wish it was hotter.